Good afternoon. Welcome to a webinar about managing your property in Spain. We're doing a whole host of sessions today on different aspects of the Spanish buying and relocating process, and hope that these are all very useful. I'm Liz Rowlinson, editor of Place in the Sun magazine, cover overseas property for the UK newspapers, and I've got some experts here who are going to answer your questions and run through some basics first. If you've got any questions, do ping them over on the question and answer tab. We'll try to get through as many as we can, but if not, we can talk about how you can book Zoom sessions with them through the website after. Okay, all right, so Jose.
Hello. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Jose Maria Lomax. I'm a registered and qualified lawyer in Spain. I work for a law firm called Sun Lawyers that my dad established in 1985. We cover the whole Costa Blanca and Costa Cálida, the Murcia region. And well, I'm open to give you any advice and obviously any help regarding buying, selling or inheriting property in Spain.
Thank you. Isabel.
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Isabel Perez, and I am a Spanish qualified Spanish lawyer and founding partner at the law firm My Lawyer in Spain. And well, we assist clients all around Spain in relation to all kinds of matters, especially related to property, taxation, Spanish wills, probate, family, and litigation as well.
Great. And Brian.
Hi, my name is Brian McDonald. I'm the owner of LCP Spain, Legal Costa Properties, and I made all the mistakes that we're going to stop you making, because I made the move 16 years ago to Spain. I'm based in the Costa del Sol, and we now have a company where we look after the purchase and sales of properties, and then after somebody's bought the property, we help them with everything that they need, because there are some differences to the UK. And property management, if they want to rent the property, selling properties, making sure that you don't get in trouble with the local authorities for not paying your council tax, as you call it in the UK, I believe. So that's me. Thank
you. Well, yeah, we all know, those of us lucky enough to own a property in the UK know it costs its time and hassle and money. And if you own two, it's double the trouble, so potentially. But then again, holiday homes in Spain especially, a lot of them are built to be ideal for absent owners. So there's a lot of that hassle, and money, in fact, can be taken away. So we're going to kick off without too much more preamble. We're going to kick off with Brian. Can you give us, just to give an example of how much sort of we know that it's the costs in Spain are a lot lower of owning a property.
Well, yes,
Can
I believe
you give us a rough example of, for example, of owning a typical property on the Costa del Sol?
Well, Liz, I had a look at some figures. If we base it on a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment in a standard community, which will have 2 swimming pools and maybe 4 or 5 lifts. Because these are the things people don't consider when, even though you're not in the property all the time, there are still lifts, there are gardeners, the pool needs to be maintained. All these problems you don't have to worry about, but the management company looks after it for you. In general, on average, between 90 and 105 euros a month. I'm going to talk in euros because that's what you're going to be paying the price in. So between like 90 to 105 would be fairly standard. Now, if you buy an enormous apartment, it will be more, because these are all based on the square meterage of your property. So when you are looking at your property, always make sure you talk to the agent, because the agent will know this. It's one of the things that we find out when we're listing a property. Again, for your average 2-bedroom apartment, standard enough size, I'm talking about 70 to 85 square meters, you're looking at approximately 750 euros a year. And that's what we call EB. Again, right. It changes in the regions, because the local town halls figure out these prices based on the square meterage. And inland properties can be less expensive than properties closer to the beach. And usually 150 to 200 euro will be for something called basura, and that is your rubbish. And a rubbish charge. If you have any questions about this, we have on our website, which is www.lcpspain.com. If you go to the news section, we have an article there called Help. What happens after I've bought my property? And everything I've just told you is synopsized. I can't even say it in English. Is if there's a
Okay. And then actually, you touched on the agent's role, but a question we got a couple of times last session of webinars was about why community fees, which are going to be payable on a development, which are Jose, I'm going to get you to just explain briefly how they work in Spain, because a lot of people might not be familiar in the UK with them. But when properties are listed, agents should state the sort of the community fees that are payable per month, shouldn't they? Jose?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the jobs for us as lawyers is obviously to check that the property is handed over to our clients or to the buyers with no debts, and one of these debts can be community fees. So as I said, one of the jobs we need to confirm is that the property is handed over with no community fees. The community fees can go to obviously a big amount of money, is as Brian mentioned, depending on how big is the complex, if it's got parking places, if they've got swimming pools, if they've got tennis courts. So it's something that the agent and your solicitor will need to provide you an exact amount of what is this community fees. They're normally paid quarterly or even monthly. It depends on the statutes of the community. And it's very important for you to know that you'll need to be updated in your community fees to be part of the AGM, so you can vote for that decision to be made in that AGM. So it is important that your lawyer and your agent gives you the right information.
Thank you. And Isabel, I just want to direct to you a question related to this that we've had in already. Mandy Doyle asks, is there any controls to stop minimised community fees being increased year on year?
Well, because you are part of the community of owners, and as an owner, you're going to be attending the community general meetings, you can vote in order to, control somehow the amount of the fees, whether they are going to be increased or they are going to be changed. It is true that sometimes at the community they would increase the fees if there is some extra work to be done, for example, general maintenance like painting, or if there is some repair to be done at the pool. So sometimes these fees can be increased punctually in order to cover the cost of some specific extra works. But depending on the share, as we were saying, the community fee may be higher or lower, and that's a way to control it somehow. You need to be aware as part of the conveyancing process, and as Jose was saying, it's part of our work, our job to check this for clients.
Thank you. And Brian,
can I just follow in one point there? When you are viewing a property and you're dealing with your agent, always, when you get to the stage of making an offer and you're very interested in a particular property, you are entitled to ask for the last 2 years' minutes of the community meeting. So with that, it will give you a very good idea of how many people, is the community in a good situation financially? Have people paid? Is there a problem with the pool that's going to cost 50,000 to be repaired? Because, asking questions is the best way, and your agent should have all this information, and if he hasn't got it, he can certainly get it for you very quickly. I know we can.
Brilliant. And I mean, Jose, not everyone's going to be buying on a community, although it's a popular option for holiday homeowners. But if you buy a villa, a standalone villa, it's got a pool and stuff, I mean, they're not cheap to maintain, are they? You've got to think about gardening, landscaping, running a pool on its own.
Yes, well, running a pool in your own villa is probably cost you the same amount as in the UK. You'll probably need somebody, obviously, if you're lazy like me, to clean it, and obviously to maintain it all year round. So roughly it'll cost you around 120 to 200 euros a month, and that will obviously cover Well, as I said, the maintenance of the pool and to have it ready for your children and family.
Yeah. Okay. And Brian, you mentioned you'd learned a lot during, you know, the process of buying and abroad. What do you think, in to people sort of managing their own property, what do you think are the most common mistakes people make? Or can you give them any tips?
Oh, the most common people, well, number one, I get a lot of clients coming here and they're looking for a property like they would buy in the UK. They go in and they say, oh, the windows are very small, it's very dark and it's shaded and things like that. And they want sun, sun, sun. Believe me, when you live here, you do not want sun, sun, sun. You want shade, shade, sun. Because if you're on a sunny terrace all the time and you can't escape except to go inside, so rethink the shade. I always say that to clients. The other thing is, it's a different country. We have a different climate and things are different. So when you're looking for your place in the sun, look for that. Don't look for a replication of what you have already in a different country with a different climate. A lot of places over here don't have central heating. We have hot and cold, air conditioning. I have air conditioning in my house. I never use it. I open a window, we get a nice breeze coming through and it's cheaper on your electricity. I bought the wrong apartment 20 years ago. I still have it. I rent it out now, but it was completely the wrong apartment. So I know it's very important. Listen to some of the advice that people who have made the move, because what I was looking for then is not really what I needed. So now all these years later, when I'm living here, I see it all the time with people. Listen to your agent. They're not necessarily trying to sell you something just to get the commission, because they live here and you'll be here and we'll meet you in the supermarket. And I don't want you throwing your trolley at me saying you sold me the wrong place.
It's a small place, Marbella.
It's a small place, Marbella, yes.
Isabel, Brian just touched on the fact he rented out the apartment he bought. What do you have to be careful about if you're thinking of buying and renting it out? I mean, there are legal restrictions on properties and areas, regions, aren't there?
Yeah, they are. Depending on the region, the restrictions and the regulation can be different. And of course, if your plan is to buy the property for renting, it is essential that you inform the lawyer, the Spanish lawyer dealing with that, so that the lawyer can check for you whether this regulation can be complied with for the property that you have selected. So for example, to put you an example, in Andalusian region, it is compulsory to get registered for the touristic rental activity. And one of the requirements is to submit the application and a copy of a first occupation license, which is the planning permission that is granted by the developer when the complex is finished. But sometimes this doesn't exist because the complex is old or because it was not granted. So it's necessary to check if this is in place or if this can be substituted by some other document. So as long as your lawyer is aware of this, the lawyer can help you to confirm this question. And also it's important to mention that the rental activity could be limited somehow by a community of owners, as we were talking before about the community of owners. If you're buying in a complex, it could be the case that the regulation there, the internal rules, limit or impose some restriction to those owners who are renting the property for touristic purposes. And they could even increase the fee, the maintenance, the community fee. And sometimes they could even impose a limitation to rent as touristic. No, this would not affect or would not apply to other kind of rentals like short term or long term, but with a touristic rental there's need to be careful, in my view.
Okay, thank you. And just to very briefly, because you tie in with a question on this subject, what safeguards or regulations apply to the management company that manages the community fees, Isabel?
Well, there is the regulation related to the community of owners itself. And there is also, well, those other requirements and rules for management companies. So for example, in terms of complying with habitation requirements, or if there are also rules applying to the existence of the pool or the kind of swimming pool in terms of safety requirements. there are certain different rules and aspects in this sense.
Okay.
In terms of the rental activity, just mentioned to the need to take control of the tenants if it is a touristic rental. So you need to notify, communicate the identity for the tenants, as that is part normally of the regulation. So there are several questions to look at.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Jose, I mean, there are lots of resources. You live in an area, the Costa Blanca, where there are lots and lots of expats, and there's a very good infrastructure there to help absent owners look after their properties, aren't there? I mean, agents provide management services. You can find local other expats manage properties. I mean, there's a lot there, isn't there?
Absolutely, yes, yes. Well, you know, we've been trading for many years. Obviously, we've got a big client assistance in that way, and we obviously always try to help people. And there is a lot of companies that take over, and they help you to obviously maintain your property, clean it if obviously it needs to be rented out. So yeah, you'll find a lot of companies, agents that obviously have their own department to help you out in this matters. And yeah, I don't think there'll be any issues regarding obviously if you need any help in maintenance or helping out in your property.
Brian, how do you manage your rental property? I mean, do you pay someone to help manage it for you, or
well, I'm on both sides. I own a property that I rent out, but my company also manages the rental for quite a lot of our clients. Yeah. My particular property is long-term rented, but we have most of our clients who want to rent they want to rent it out to bring in an income, but also use it themselves. So they, as Isabel was saying, they will need a holiday rental license, and we can obtain that for them. Then we manage the advertising of the property, the cleaners, the maintenance man if the air conditioning breaks down, and again, all arrivals need to be registered with the police here in Spain, a thing called the Hospitalería. So we check and meet all the people who they say they are on their passport, and that's registered with the police within 24 hours of arriving. And then we look after the tax return at the end of the year for them, because obviously, if you're earning money, you have to pay tax. And our UK friends need to remember that with Brexit coming up, that tax rate at the moment is 19%. But after the 31st of this year, we have every reason to believe it will go to the non-EU rate, which is 24%.
Yes, I heard that. And I mean, what about, we've got a question from Alan O'Neill. As well as obtaining a license, are there any other requirements and obligations if you're letting out a property? You've mentioned the tax return. I've heard guests need to be registered with the local police, for example.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay.
Again, on the website, if they go into the website, they'll see information. I know we've got such a short amount of time here, but on the website we have information, lcpspain.com, which will fill in more information for people.
Brilliant. And I mean, there's been a lot of travel restrictions in Spain. Have you seen people changing from short holiday lets to renting out their property long term? Because there might be some Brits coming out who are hoping to buy, and they need to rent for 2 or 3 months.
Yes, just because you have a rental license for short-term holiday let doesn't mean you can't do longer terms. Okay. You can rent to somebody for a week, or if you decide that you want to rent to them for 3 months or 4 months, or this morning I was dealing with somebody who's sorting out their residencia, and they're going to spend the next 6 months here, the remainder of 2020 here to get all the documentation done and things. So we've organized an apartment for them for the next 4 months. But we're getting a lot of people coming over who quite frankly don't care about the quarantine, because they're coming to Spain and they're not worried about doing the 14 days when they get back, and coming over and doing what they need to do.
Sure, yeah, that's a good point. And Isabel, it's right, isn't it? I mean, there won't be any restrictions on British people renting out their properties when we go out of the EU. We can just do that the same. We might pay a bit more tax, as Brian just alluded to.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of the requirements are the same, regardless where you are based, either in or out the European Union. It is the tax impact that is going to be changing, but in terms of the requirements for touristic or the regulation applicable to long rental, it does not change.
Brilliant. And Jose, you know, the Costa Blanca, massively popular tourist area. Would you think that certain areas are best? I know this is not exactly your area, but I mean, what areas are good for rentals, holiday rentals?
Well, difficult question. To be honest, in this area, in this particular area in the Costa Blanca, you can find properties to be rented all around, because there's people that like inland rather than going near the coast. They're like more, you know, rustic areas, small Spanish villages, and obviously, you know, the locals there, yeah, rather than coming to the coast and obviously, you know, getting involved with more, yeah, international citizens and international people. So you can find, you know, properties for rent in any part in the Costa Blanca. Really? So it's not really.
Yeah, I think, like Brian says, there'll be people coming over looking forward to rent. I've got another legal question. Isabel, at what point is a property classed as being a rental? I.e., can they let a family use their property free of charge? For how, is there a length of time that it becomes a, you know?
Not exactly. No, there is not like a limitation or a restriction in terms of the time you can let a friend or a family member to stay at your home. There's no restriction about that. If you have bought the property under a normal or a standard system, there is of course the timeshare system, for example, which would only allow you to use the property for the period that would correspond to you, the timeshare, but generally there is no limitation. There is no minimum or maximum time to let the property to friends and family.
Okay, a question for you, Brian. Is a mortgage payment tax deductible as an expense?
Yes.
But
if the mortgage is in Spain.
Is that right?
If it's a Spanish mortgage. We do get clients coming in and they've got their mortgage from another country, and I'm afraid if the tax isn't paid in Spain, you can't claim it in Spain.
Right, and you know, you alluded to the fact there's a difference between 19 and 24% income tax.
That's on the profit you make on your rentals. That's
right, but I got the impression that also there was a clause that you might not be able to deduct expenses if you're not.
Oh, sorry. Well, we can't tell for sure yet. At the moment, that's how it stands. You pay 19%. You can claim for the laundry, the cleaning, the various expenses in connection with the property. At the moment, people who are outside the EU are paying 24% and cannot claim those expenses. So at the moment, yes. Who knows what will happen after the 31st? I believe there will be some sort of agreement to settle it, but I'm afraid, Jose Maria, yes, none of us can say what's going to happen with Brexit just yet.
No, we can't really say because there's no other information. But I'm pretty sure what Brian said, that well, you know, Spain and England have always been a very close countries, and you know, there's a lot of British people, you know, that live here. So it is, you know, important that there's be an agreement so people can live here and travel safely to Spain. So I really don't think it'll be an issue.
All right. Well, look, we've kind of exhausted our time here, and we're going to have time so people can come and find you and book meetings with you online. Jose, can you remind people of your company, and they can book a Zoom meeting with you, can't they, online through?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Well, we are Sun Lawyers. We are based in the Costa Blanca. So anyone who's interested in obviously buying, selling, and any legal other matters that you need our services, please check our website, www.sun-lawyers.com. And yeah, you can book a Zoom call or send me an email, and I'll try to obviously advise you and help you out.
Thank you. Brilliant. And Brian, you're Marbella,
Brian,
aren't you?
Okay, well, we are www.lcpspain.com. That's LCP for legal cost of property, so lcpspain.com. And like Jose Maria said, if you want to pop us a message either through the exhibitors page here on the site or coming to our own site, and what we're doing with people at the moment is either the Zoom calls or WhatsApp calls and viewings. And you can do so much with technology.
Brilliant. And Isabel, you're My Lawyer in Spain.
That's right. My Lawyer in Spain. Our website www.mylawyerin.spain.com. Very easy to remember, and we are available either through the Zoom call, through the program, or if you want to give us a call, send a WhatsApp, or well, we are happy to be in touch.
Brilliant. Well, thank you all. And as I said, to reiterate, yes, go to book meetings with these guys on the meeting exhibitor page. We've got a few more sessions the rest of this afternoon. I'm about to go into one on healthcare if you're interested on that. So thank you guys. Time to say goodbye. And thanks again.
Take care. See you soon, Liz. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Cheers.